Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. And today we are doing God Country number 2. And I wanted to point something out in God Country I wanted to show off the second cover that I have for God Country number 1. And I don't think I showed off the back either, which is actually pretty cool. I wanted to point out something that I kind of recognize. I don't know if I appreciate, but I recognize. Okay, the bit where the narrator says, "Well, shucks, folks, this is a story from long ago that's been told thousands of times." The one part of that that's true is this. So one of the first stories I wrote, I remember this as I was reading it. One of the first stories I wrote when I was an intern in animation school before graduation was called The Pumpkin-Headed Nightmare, about a family traveling in a car and they're having an argument and the girl in the back seat is having a dream and the car gets struck by lightning and her dad gets turned into a monster. And the rest of the episode is the supernatural team. This was for the guys who ended up making the TV show Immortal. So Lorenzo Lamas and his crew would have been the ones to investigate and solve the story. So Gods and Monsters Coming Down in Storms is an age-old story. It was one of the first ones I ever did. It's been told by everyone forever. So in that, okay, but the folksy Texas narrator takes away from what could otherwise be a more universal sort of story and more appealing to everyone. It really sort of limits the appeal. The art is really good. I like the colors a lot. I think someone told them about Horizons because I haven't seen any Black Horizons again. And yeah. This is an interesting bit. So Dad is in the hospital, I guess. He's still got the sword. Is that right? No, this is a flashback to when he was in the hospital. But now he knows his daughter-in-law and he knows his granddaughter's name. He has all his memories. He's holding on to the sword. He won't let go of the sword. That's this whole episode. And there is some things I want to say about that. So this is a little bit like Thor. If a human gets Thor's hammer, this guy got a war god's sword. And who is this? The art is really good. Jeff Shaw is the artist. I can see why this would be appealing. His son is named Roy, and the old man's name is Emmett. And here Emmett rebuilds his house with the power of this sword, which also has a name like Vortex or something like that. I don't remember. But apparently this sword is the god of all swords. This guy's about to explain it. He does his superhero landing out here in the front yard. He's about to explain that this sword is the god of all swords, and that all swords that were sentient, like Excalibur or Stormbringer, or theoretically any weapon that's sentient. This is apparently, and so now the sword is having a conversation with this guy that was its handler, and apparently he's accusing him of being disrespectful. This is a little bit like, I really worry when they go that way because the modem's over there, the computer. So anyhow. Oh, yeah, Excalibur. But this is really a sentient weapon, and it claims to be the king of all sentient weapons. And this guy's name is Aristus, I believe. And he's apparently a war god, blood god, and honor god from some, maybe Atlantis time. And family's all hiding out, and so, I know what I was going to say. This is a little bit like Death Takes a Holiday, in that the sword now wants to take an adventure with this old man, and the old man does not want to let it go because while he has it, he's cured of Alzheimer's. And there's another thing I wanted to talk about that this is a little bit like. This is a little bit like Hunin and Munin, who are Odin's two crows, thought and memory. And he's terrified of which will flee first. Will he go mad or will he go, senile? So will he forget everything or will he just become like unreasonable? And this guy has Alzheimer's, so he's forgot everything. Memory flew from him first. Memory is Munin. And his two dogs are Gary and Frecky. And his boat is Skidbladnir. And his horse, his eight-legged horse, is Sleipnir. Odin's a main character in my story too. I don't really have Thor in it. I have a kind of combination Thor and Michael. So basically what the sword says is that these two guys should come to an agreement, come to some kind of an understanding. Meanwhile, Roy and his wife and their daughter are, now they get to experience Granddad as a lucid person and awake and alive for the first time. And it's good art. I like the art. Texas is appealing. And look, someone talked to him about like the dark black horizons, because I haven't seen one in this whole book. It didn't stand out to me. I didn't even think of it until we sat down to do this. Like you're really there. Until I sat down to do this. I do, this is kind of this is a nice bit. This is a good story. But it's not a comic. A comic is about an everlasting character. Like Spawn is a comic, and there are Spawn stories. Maybe I'm asking too much of Image. Walking Dead was a comic. Rick and his family. I can't remember his son's name. I don't know. I remember Dwayne's name. Rick Grimes and Shane. The original issue, I had it and I sold it. The confrontation between Rick and Shane, where Shane is arguing that he can protect the family better. Shane's face is like the perfect, like squinting, screaming face. And I was just so impressed with the asymmetrical. And it was only black and white. It was just really, really, really well done. And then he went on to do Deadpool. I had the embarrassing, I know I just showed you guys this page. I'm not really telling you what happens in the story because it doesn't really, I'm not saying I don't care about these characters. They're kind of cool. Basically, what's happening is this guy's remembering his life. They're having a conversation. The sword wielder and the old man, Emmett, are having a conversation about how he fell in love and had a family and he misses his wife Elizabeth and it's good to be able to remember things. The sword theoretically has no weight because it has this big anti-gravity gap in the middle. At least it did earlier. Oh yeah, sure. It does right up here in the second panel. And these panels are all... This is a work-a-day comic. I'm not saying Jeff Shaw isn't doing his best. He is. But he's got to pack a lot of information into a small area. And they have to come to a conclusion. And basically, this guy's going to let him keep it for a while, is what I remember it being. But I do remember this. Aristus says the sword was forged by his father. So it is rightfully his. That is exactly like my story, where Ashley owns an anti-gravity artificial intelligence device. So how do you own a divinity that you created? And that's what this story is about. And Ashley does not exercise ownership over it. She does not. You guys should read it. Her father created a divinity that had a silent relationship with him. It wants to know his daughter, but it's not talking to her either. It doesn't talk. You You guys should read the story. We'll talk about that after this. But anyhow, this sword, which is a divinity, was forged by this guy's father. So it's either, in this case, in the story, like my case, it was forged out of a element that mankind really doesn't understand very well. And most of mankind just uses it to make things hover. They charge it with electricity, and by charging it with electricity, it repels the Earth's gravity. A friend of mine explained to me that what that really is a neutron star. And, well, I countered with, oh, that's awesome, because everyone wants to be a star. Because knowing that the handheld amplifier, which is out in my car right now, represented by the micronics, is liquid metal with a hard shell. It's liquid metal in that so metal, like glass, when metal rusts, it's because the particles are leaving the metal surface, and when they do, they sort of bubble up in a disgusting sort of way. They oxygenate. Your glass melts, but glass also is shedding particles all the time as light goes through it, whether light touches it or not, because it's a liquid crystal state, from what I understand, and it will also sag over time. Like old church windows are thicker at the bottom than they are at the top. And that's because, like paintings, paint is the same thing. In addition to the color being fugitive from light, meaning that the color gets washed out over time, it gets bleached out, the color retreats inward, paint will also sag on the canvas, and it's a lot better for them to be stored flat. So, because the ones that are hung up in the Louvre, unless they spray it with a fixative, which I'm sure a lot of those, that's been done. I don't know how I got off on this tangent, but anyhow, this guy's sword was forged by his father, and it's a divinity. So does he have the right to wield it? Does Ashley have the right to wield the micronics? Only as long as the micronic says so, which is a little bit like what this sword does. It says, I want to take a break from you. We're just hanging out in the sky. This big polar vortex tornado pulled me down to Earth, and I want to talk to this guy for a while. Why don't you two sort it out? And the big dude says, all right, I'll leave you for a bit, but I will be back. And when I do come back, I will be exerting my right for the sword. We're flipping past all this. This is where he does the Doctor Strange, and vanishes out of the environment, leaving this guy with this symbolic black hole. Where he has to answer for not having the sword to his father. And his father wants to know what? And Dad got up out of his chair. So there's going to be some shit now. I only have 4 issues. I don't know how many there are. I don't hate it. These are just some ads. I don't hate it, but I know that it's a limited story and it's going to have an ending. So it's going to have an ending. That guy made that sword, whether it talks or not. He's coming back for it. Just because his son, got away from his son doesn't mean he gets to get away from everyone. Also, we have a Yggdrasil card for today. This is the beautiful box. This deck is like pencils, no inks artwork. Talk about artist edition, right? So here's the book. I'm not going to read the basic stuff like Odin is Odin. If you don't know who Odin is, look him up on Wikipedia. Frigga is today's card, and she is the goddess of wisdom, and she's basically the empress. She's not Freya. Frigga and Freya are not the same. Aesir and Vanir are not the same. This is the matron. Freya is the maiden. Freya is the party girl, the one who can't be chained down. Freya is the one who. Freya's got bris and gammon. Frigga does not. Frigga is the faithful, dutiful queen, empress. It's kind of like the difference between Hera and Athena. They're not the same. And it's significant. If you don't think so, meet them. They're different people. And Freya does not always grow up into Frigga either. The party girl does not always become the matron, or the maiden doesn't always work out that way. So today is brought to you by Legacy of a Mad Scientist, where my character chases around she owns the sentient, sort of like a sword. It's a lot like Stormbringer. In later issues it becomes a sword. Right now it's just a knife. For her it's just a knife. For her brother it's a direct connection to the internet, and he can do anything with it. He can hack anything, he can read anything, although it fucks with his head. So Legacy of a Mad Scientist, for free here on YouTube, for free on Smashwords as an ebook. You can buy it off Amazon.com as paperback. Followed by the sequel, Legend of Ashley Fox, where Ashley is now a sophomore in high school, and she and Jeffrey have to unite a bunch of gangs in an orphanage against the serial killers who run the place. And yeah, sorry yesterday's didn't get uploaded until this morning. I put the computer to sleep while I was uploading when I left last night, and I didn't get back until this morning. And so yeah. Pretty much talked about everything already, just about comics. I got to go skating today. My arms were a little red. I fell down once, so and I felt like a pro. And in addition to writing, which I'm now like 59 pages, 22,000 words, I think. I have the whole first book of my skater comic, which is no other kids, issue maybe 0, them just skating in the driveway, and their mom upset that the younger brother's not wearing a helmet, and she buys him a football helmet, and the next day he has to wear it, or she's gonna take away his skateboard, and all his injuries are not helmet related. The helmet is in perfect shape. So yeah, anyhow, I'm really happy. It's so much fun to draw. I've been drawing on my new drafting table. I haven't shown any of you guys of it yet. Not because I'm sensitive, but I just wanna own it myself for a little while before I start showing it off. So anyhow, I hope you're having an awesome summer. It's beautiful out. Skating in summer, I don't know how to describe it. It's the best thing ever. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Bye.